Hey you guys, so today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my internship that I had as well as the project this semester. So I decided to title my project Pause with a Cause because I did a lot of working in the Cumberland County Animal Shelter this semester, as well as work hands-on with a bunch of animals such as cats, dogs, guinea pigs, rabbits, and so let's get started. So, why did I choose this and why did I name it Pause with a Cause? And I did this to help bring awareness to animals living in the animal shelter and how us as volunteers can help. Um, I did my internship with the Cumberland County Animal Shelter. It is located in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I did it over the duration of the semester, mostly through March and April, because I do have a full-time job, so it was kind of hard for me to maneuver doing that as well as working in some volunteer time, but it was well worth it. And I worked alongside other volunteers as well as the volunteer coordinator, which she was so sweet and so understanding. She really did help with my orientation and stuff. So, as a volunteer, what tasks are we allowed to do, and what is, my favorite thing to do? So, the first thing that we could do is cleaning, and this involves cleaning out kennels, litter boxes, cleaning the floors around the area. This is to help dogs not attract any kind of diseases or flies, fleas, stuff like that. They kind of keep them comfortable and keep them happy because, like us, if you live in a dirty environment, it's kind of hard to have a positive outtake on life. The next thing would be enrichment. This includes playing with them, such as fetch, petting them, giving them love and attention, giving them treats, such as Kongs or lick mats. And this kind of helps burn energy in hyperactive dogs as well as kind of make them happy and decide to have them have a more positive outlook on life. The third one is another hygiene perk, which is grooming and bathing. This includes giving them baths, trimming the nails, and brushing the animals, especially the cats who may have been a little overweight and can't necessarily bathe themselves all the way, and we cannot bathe the cats. So, brushing is very essential, especially when you're doing cat enrichment. Laundry is another hygiene thing where, you're washing the bedding, the towels, anything that you use on the animals or with the animals, including toys, all have to be washed in a special laundry detergent and be dried and folded and put away. Um, and then the last thing is dishes. This may not seem like a big thing, but of course, nobody wants to eat out of a dirty food bowl, so we wash all of their bowls, water bowls, make sure they got fresh water, fresh food always. And some of my favorite things was laundry because I love the smell of laundry detergent. And it was a very simple task, very easy for volunteers that may be a little shy around the animals. And cat enrichment was also a really good beginner thing. But once I became more comfortable, I really did enjoy working with the dogs because they're a little bit more responsive to the enrichment. Like you could see the joy on their faces and you could see how much they really appreciate, being outside and spending time with humans because sometimes they don't get to do that all day, every day. Here is a few of the animals that I did work with. This cat was a female calico and she didn't have a name at the time, but I did call her Daisy because I didn't feel as though it was right for everybody to have a name but her because she was a new intake. She warmed up eventually to me because originally she started like hissing and was very unsure of me, but like most cats, you have to gain their trust with them. And she eventually warmed up and enjoyed, sitting next to me, eating her food, playing. And she did end up going to a foster home in pending adoption. The second one is Goliath, and he is the sweetest boy that I've worked with. He was a very big dog. He was the biggest dog that I have worked with. He was like 115 pounds, and he at first seemed really intimidating, but he really just liked walking around and just sitting next to you and liked, getting petted and stuff. So, he kind of showed that even though, he may seem big and scary, he really is super sweet. Later that week, he did end up getting adopted by an older man who was looking for, a nice chill companion, and he definitely was a fit. This is Cricket, and Cricket definitely kept me on my toes because he was super high energy and was one of those dogs who most definitely needed the enrichment of going outside, running around, and needing to burn some energy. Um, he was an owner surrender due to him having all that energy. They weren't expecting him to do that. So we just want to make sure that his needs are met and he gets taken out. Sometimes animals do have to be taken out twice a day to make sure that they are going to be calm for the night, and he definitely was one of those. Sebastian is one of the ones that definitely warmed up my heart because he came from an owner surrender because his owner had passed away and the other family members were unable to take him in. And so he was super sad and was showing signs of depression whenever he came in. But thankfully, to the help of myself and other volunteers, we were able to kind of get him out of his shell by petting him and brushing him, giving him treats, and making him feel more welcomed into his space. There was other ways of working with the animal shelter besides directly volunteering that I have been able to experience. One of the options was this comedy show that I came across, and this was founded by Mitch and Casey Fowler. And the comedy show was called Comedy Couch for the Dogs. And what they basically did is with every 1 pound of dog food that you donated, it gave you $1 off your ticket. And this was actually donated directly to the animal shelter that I had volunteered with. I found this to be a very inspiring thing for them to do because with, today's economy, it's very hard for animals, I'm sorry, in order for shelters and other, nonprofit organizations to gain donations because their dollar doesn't stretch as far as it used to. And so luckily with this comedy show, they were able to, get some donations. I was able to talk to Mr. Fowler, and one of his quotes that he had mentioned to me was, as an owner of two shelter dogs, it was a passion of mine to help those that I couldn't take with me. So not only was this an act of, being able to draw in different people to the show and kind of, make it a community event, but this also was a action of passion because he had gotten two dogs from a shelter, and so he was also advocating for the other animals that he knew that needed their help. After that comedy show, they had commented that they had were able to donate over 500 pounds of dog food, which is an extraordinary amount, and definitely helped the shelter feed the dogs for months. And so, what did I learn from this experience? I learned how committed the shelter workers are at giving these animals a temporary home in order for them to have hope in getting a forever home. If it wasn't for the volunteers such as myself, it would be impossible for every animal to get the enrichment and clean environment they so greatly deserved, because there is a lot of hard work that goes into taking care of these animals and making sure that they find the right homes, because we are also looking at the people that come in looking for animals to adopt. We're there to make sure that they are informed and tell them about the little niches that we find in the animals. Like the animal I have in this picture, like he loved to play, he loved to paw around, and he was very talkative. And so with us getting that one-on-one time with animals, we are able to talk to the possible adoptees and explain, what kind of personality are you looking for in an animal. That way we could also decrease the return rate of animals, because about 20% of animals that are adopted, they are returned for whatever reason it may be, and we do want to decrease that. And so we want to make it our mission to be able to do so. And if you were wondering how can you reach out, how can I help as well, you are able to volunteer because they don't have a limit on volunteers. You are able to, basically create your own schedule and work with what you have. One of your options is to call the Cumberland County Animal Shelter and speak to the volunteer coordinator or speak to an employee on what you could do or how you could help. Then you could apply online as well, which is what I did. You could fill out all the necessary paperwork and kind of like skip the steps of needing to ask about it. Then you could go through an orientation. It's about 30 minutes long, where they walk you around the facility and kind of show you where you are and aren't allowed, because they do have a bite risk session where they don't necessarily want their volunteers messing with those animals, because it is a liability issue if you are to get bit. Um, After that, it's just a matter of enjoying your time with the animals, doing what you're comfortable with, and also making sure that, you treat every animal as your own, and making sure that they are loved and cared for, and you do everything in your power to make sure that, these animals are hopeful enough to, have the option to get adopted or fostered, or even have a facility where it's like, oh, dog stay out, where you could take them on field trips and stuff. And so, yeah, that is everything that I learned and everything that I've gained from this semester. I've really enjoyed, talking to it about you guys. If you guys have any questions, you could always feel free to email me. I would love to have more of a discussion about this. So, thank you guys so much, and I will talk to you guys later. Thank you.